Hi guys, welcome back to part 2. Today we'll be talking about how I power the point motors, and we'll also touch upon the Treuddyn polarity. As with part 1, we'll keep it short and snappy. If you missed part 1, when I'm talking about DCC and the power bus cable, then you can go and watch it by clicking the link at the top of the screen. Right, let's get into the video. Okay, so let's begin by mentioning how I get power onto the board. To do this, I use GaugeMaster's GMC M1 transformer. It's 16 volt AC. I've chosen to give the point motors their own dedicated power supply. I think I could have used my dynamics to power the point motors, but I decided against it once I'd read up the amount of power required by the point motors to flick the rails. If you watch part 1, you'll know I'm building a modular layout, and I'm therefore designing all of the electronics on my boards in the same way, ensuring the boards can be electrically isolated from each other if need be, but can also be plugged in to each other when they need to be. To do this, I'm using 16 amp pluggable terminal blocks. The beauty about these things is it's easy to connect them and disconnect them. There's no need to use a screwdriver. You just simply push them together or pull them apart. On the terminal block, I run 16 02mm standard wire to a small terminal strip. It's here where I feed out the power supply to the 2 banks of switches I have on this board. Before the power goes into the switches, it first passes through a CDU, or capacity discharge unit. The purpose of the CDU is to store up power in the 2 capacitors, and when a point motor is switched, the CDU discharges the power in one big punch. This ensures the point motor has enough energy to carry out the positive switching action. I use GaugeMaster's CDUs on my layout. In fact, I have 2 CDUs on the board. The reason I have 2 is because I have 12 points on the board and therefore 12 point motors. I'm toying with the idea of having 1 CDU per switch block. So, the second CDU is fixed to the board but not wired up. Ideally, it would be great if I could wire the CDUs in series, but I'm not sure how to do it. Let me know in the comments below if you've got more than 1 CDU on your board, and if so, how have you wired them? Are they in series? On the CDU, the power is fed to 2 banks of switches via the small terminal strip mentioned earlier. Before we move on to the switches, I wanted to quickly point out that I fit ferrules to the ends of my wires, which I hold in place using my trusty crimping pliers. The beauty of the terminal strips is that I can get 2 ferrules in the 1 socket, one either side of the screw. The ferrules not only ensure I get a nice strong connection, but they also make the job a little easier and tidier too. As mentioned earlier, I have 2 switch banks on the layout. The switches I've used are RK Toggle 8 and are available on Amazon. These are a toggle switch module designed specifically for switching solenoid points. The switch module is designed to be used with a CDU. Each module contains 8 toggle switches. The switches are designed to toggle on, then immediately off to ensure the point motor receives just enough power to move the rails. I really like these switch motors. They were easy to wire up and are well made. I've yet to fix the switches permanently in place, as I'd like to find a tidier solution to the wiring. I'm looking for a solution where I can very quickly attach or remove the switch module from the layout. I'm wanting something like a ribbon cable that has all the wires fixed together and can be pushed and pulled together. Let me know in the comments below if you've explored ribbon cables for this type of use. I'm keen to hear what others are doing. From each switch, I run 3 wires, a red, a black, and a green wire, or a positive, negative, and common wire. The 3 wires feed directly into the printed circuit board of the point motor. In my case, I run them through a terminal strip. This isn't needed, but as I'm trying to find a long-term solution as discussed earlier, I've decided to include terminal strips so that any future work doesn't involve me interfering with any of the wires directly connected to the point motor. In total, there are 12 point motors on this board. I'm using GaugeMaster's PM1s. What I like about these motors is that they're easy to fix under the baseboard, and they also require a single hole through the baseboard to operate the point. Originally, I purchased PM2s because they were cheaper. However, I instantly recognised why they were cheaper, and that's because they didn't come with a built-in switch to allow me to change the polarity of the point. On my layout, I use electrofrog points from Pico, meaning the built-in switch is really important. If you want to get a more detailed look at the track plan of the board, then I'll put a link at the top of the screen. Attaching the wires to the point motors can be a little challenging once the motors are fixed to the baseboard. I highly recommend removing the baseboard from the frame and turning it around to give you easy access to solder the wires to the motor. I would try and avoid soldering the wires with the baseboard in situ, as it's more difficult to solder upside down and it can easily result in accidents. In my opinion, the PM1 point motor is really good value. They do the job really well. I know there's lots of alternatives on the market, and some people don't like the sudden noise made by the PM1 once it's switched, but I genuinely feel like it positively adds to the atmosphere. It gives you a sense of something industrial and powerful. As you can see on the layout, the frogs of the points are connected to the PM1 using white wire. This is soldered directly to the point frog, dropped through the baseboard, and soldered to the PM1 printed circuit board. Well, that's it for part 2. Over the 2 parts of this episode, we've covered most things on the underside of the baseboard. Part 1 looked at the DCC bus cable, and in this episode, we've covered the points and how they are switched. And finally, we've touched upon the frog polarity of the points on the layout. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it's given you insight into how my layout is wired, and also made you think about your own layouts. If you're starting out in the hobby, then it may have answered some of the few questions that you may have about the electronic side of the hobby. Now, at the beginning of the video, I did say I would have a small announcement, so here it is. This video concludes the recap work I've done to date. All the layout updates going forward will be based on activity I've not yet started. That will mean the videos will be more in the doing. I'll be capturing the changes to the layout as they are happening, and I hope you will keep with me as I take the next step. I've learned so much over the last 4 episodes. I recognise people want to see work happening to layouts as it happens, but I felt it was really important to tell you the backstory and to discuss what I've already done. This is our baseline, and things will only continue to get better going forwards. The next layout update will be about the backboard. All the parts have arrived today, so I can't wait to get sorted and to get filming it for you. With that said, guys, it would be great if we could get this content in front of as many people as possible. And to do that, I need your help. Commenting, liking and subscribing really does have a big impact on the YouTube algorithm. The more of these things the video receives, the more the algorithm takes notice. So, if you've enjoyed the content, let me know by clicking a few buttons. It only takes a second, and I really do appreciate it. Until next time, guys, keep those trains on the tracks. Goodbye.